is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
So, everybody, we're going to do some fun shows the next couple of weeks with some bonus segments for people that are in leagues with us. What we're going to do is we're going to do some rookie previews as we're going through the scouting combine, getting ready for free agency. We'll be ready for free agency in a couple of weeks. This week, we're going to look at first-round quarterbacks and receivers. And then we're going to close out the show a little shorter, but there'll be a bonus segment for members of one of our dynasty leagues called the Bourbon Bowl. If you want to hear about our dynasty league called the Bourbon Bowl, you can listen on after JJ Wang gives his closing. If not, about halfway through, you can go, hey, see you, dude. Peace out. I don't want to care about your leagues, but you can hear our notes here as we discuss the rookies, but we'll jump in. As we get started, JJ Wang, I got two questions for you to go on him. We're looking at the big thing that once we come to free agency is going to be quarterback. There's an inkling or some rumors coming through Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. I mean, Justin Fields has been the predominant name to the Falcons, but I've seen a lot of articles recently. I was reading that Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. If you were a Falcons fan / fantasy owner, who would you rather have as your quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields?
I mean, as a fantasy owner, I would probably rather have Justin Fields. I mean, he's got that running capability. I mean, he's still got the big arm, and he's not coming off an Achilles injury. I mean, Kirk Cousins is older, so we're not sure how. Of course, he's not a runner, so that really doesn't really affect that much. But I think as a fantasy owner, I'd still rather have Justin Fields. I think Kirk Cousins would be like a solid QB3 right now, considering the injury. But if I'm a Atlanta fan, I'd want Justin Fields because it'd be like a reminder of the Michael Vick days, and that was some fun times.
Yeah, as a fantasy guy for me, I want Kirk Cousins because I have more Drake London than I do of any other guys. So knowing that Cousins is going to throw the ball to Drake London, Fields we don't know. Let's go hypothetically.
I mean, and Fields is. I mean, he did make DJ Moore a top. One of DJ Moore's better seasons that he's had out of his career. So, I mean, given the right team, I think Justin Fields can still produce, high-level wide receivers.
That is true. But let's say that Cousins goes to Atlanta. Where would Fields fit? I'm hearing Pittsburgh. There's a couple of other options around.
Yeah, there's Pittsburgh, Minnesota. You got Oakland. All these guys, all these places need quarterbacks. I think Minnesota would be fine because you got Justin Jefferson. I think the way that offense is run, Kevin McConnell is a real good offensive coordinator. He comes from that Sean McVay type of offense. I think they're smart. I think they know how to work just with the ability of Justin Fields. So I think Minnesota would be fine. I think the Raiders would be a disaster at this point. I think Pittsburgh would be okay. But I think Minnesota playing in the Dome, Justin Fields, Justin Jefferson, Addison. Luckily for Minnesota, they don't really have a running game at the moment, so Justin Fields
Madison
can be there.
Madison's getting cut.
Yeah, so they're cutting him. So I mean, I'm sure they'll pick somebody up in the draft. I like Minnesota if it's an opportunity.
And before we get into the rookies, they are giving permission for Zach Wilson to seek a trade. Congratulations to the team that wastes that draft pick. Anyway, let's continue on with JJ Wang's rookie preview. We have our expert in here, JJ Wang, with all of his college football knowledge. We're going to look at quarterbacks this week. We're going to look at wide receivers this week, and he's going to flex those college muscle brains he's got here. JJ Wang, let's rock and roll.
All right, so I've been trying to figure out how I want to do this. I've watched more game film and combine this. Of course, the combine was this weekend, so I've watched a lot of the combine and watched so much film. It's like the most I've ever done. So I wasn't sure how I wanted to do this. At first, I wanted to sound like a professional, breaking it down. But I started watching these guys, and there's no way I could break these guys down because they all look the same. They all look great. I mean, I'm not going to say they all look the same, but it's hard. Even watching the game film, I mean, they're all, you'll notice some differences in some guys, but I'm not going to break down the way they move their hips or, they're super fast this way or that way. But, just from watching the game film, it's completely different, than watching highlights, of course. If you watch a highlight, everybody looks good, right? So, but if you watch the game film, you'll actually see some bad plays and you'll see, kind of what they're bad at and just instead of everything that they're good at. So being that the first round of the draft this year is going to be pretty much dominated by quarterbacks and wide receivers, throw in a tight end. maybe a running back at the end of the draft. But we'll start off the quarterbacks. At the top, of course, I didn't watch a lot of game film. I don't think it was really necessary for Caleb Williams. He's pretty much locked as the number one player taken. Some people like him, some people don't. I mean, people have issues with his attitude. Is he a diva? All this other kind of stuff. But you hear he's generational. He's the best guy since Andrew Luck. But we heard that about Trevor Lawrence. I'm not really sure. If he goes to the right situation, sure. I think Caleb Williams would be a good quarterback. 6'1", 214. He was fantastic at Oklahoma, right? But isn't everybody good at Oklahoma? Every quarterback that rolls through there, right? Absolutely. So he went with Lincoln Riley to USC. He won the Heisman, but he never got USC over the hump, and it's USC. They should be able to get all the talent in the world, but they just couldn't be good enough. What's your thoughts on Caleb Williams?
I'm that minority that apparently the talent's there, the arm's there, but the attitude. Like I look at, I'm in the humans field of life. That's my jobs are all in the humans field, and I just worry about if he's coming in already being that demanding, being that prima donna. What's going to happen? There's so much about earning the respect of your teammates. If you come in with that attitude, are people going to respect you? Could part of the reason be that kids didn't go to USC is they didn't want to deal with his business? Like USC is a predominant program. Who wouldn't want to go there? I mean, they haven't been really good though since Reggie Bush, but like super good. So is the attitude going to affect someone? Is some coach going to have to just sort of put him in his place? Or is he going to somehow eat humble pie to figure out? Because he's going to be on a terrible team next year. Like he's not going to come. I mean, USC was nothing to write home about as far as like powerhouses, Alabama's or whatnot. Is he going to be able to handle getting his butt kicked? Yeah, and that'll show.
I mean, who knows? I mean, all these guys coming in, you think they're going to be great, and they just turn out to be average. I mean, my personal opinion, I think Caleb Williams is going to be just like Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be, 12 some years, maybe he'll pop up to 8, but I don't think he's generational like they say. I think he's just a good number one quarterback, like Joe Burrow coming out. I mean, I think Joe Burrow will be kind of the high side. Yeah, Joe Burrow will be kind of high side. I think the real competition starts. Let's say Caleb Williams is like a tier 1 quarterback. I think he's like the only guy in that tier. He's the number one guy.
He's going first.
The next tier, kind of where it starts, we got Drake May out of North Carolina, big guy, 6'4", 223, got an arm. Played multiple years in North Carolina. Last year was down a little bit, but, he lost some weapons. It's really hard to play when you lose your best weapons. Josh Downs, went to Indy. So, I mean, it's hard when you lose your top receivers. We got Jaden Daniels out of LSU, the one-year wonder. Just like Joe Burrow was, same school. He won the Heisman. He played great. I mean, 1,000-yard rusher in college. The fantasy upside, we have it all right there. He's 6'5", but 6'5", real thin, like 200 pounds. So he's super skinny. So watch out for that. He takes some vicious hits when he plays. He'll take some nasty, nasty hits. And then the guy that's rising up the draft board currently is J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. 6'2", 219. I watched a lot of him at the combine. He looked good. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's getting the ball 70 yards down the field. He can get it outside, to the sidelines, outside of the numbers. He looks good. I mean, he's got bulk. I mean, he can even run a little bit. He's not a super slow guy. He's able to get outside the pocket. But at this point, I think Drake May is still the number 2. He's sliding a little bit. But then do you want to take the chance on Jaden Daniels? We've seen when Justin Fields came in, Justin Fields was great, and he slid all the way down to number 12. Am I going to sit here and say Jaden Daniels is better than Justin Fields? Absolutely not, because I have no idea. I think Justin Fields is a little more polished of a passer in college at least, but they run about the same. So taking Daniels that high is crazy, and he is a quarterback. And I think if you want to play it safe, I think J.J. McCarthy might be a surprise here, going a little higher, maybe even before Jaden Daniels.
I mean, we're looking at the top 3 teams taking quarterbacks, correct? So like Chicago, Washington, New England, and then after that, you're looking maybe New York at 6, maybe Tennessee. I think they're going to stick with Levis for another year or two. At 7.
Atlanta's been in talks of trading up for a quarterback too.
So that's Atlanta's, and that's sort of where you go. The Minnesota getting whatever's left, maybe depending upon what they do in free agency. I mean, if they get Fields, it won't matter. But so you're looking at the top 3 guys. Are the Commanders going to take another North Carolina quarterback? Are they going to go, hey, but same thing happened. The same thing you just said about Drake May is what we said about your boy in DC right now. Lost all of his weapons, had a bad last year. Is he going to come in like that into the pros? Will they ride the Heisman guy in because new owners, new regime going up? I mean, I could totally see Daniels because he's not the safe pick is Drake May because that's what everybody says. But what's the new regime want? Do they want that running quarterback? Do they want that's what's going to put butts in seats, and that's sort of what Washington likes to do.
I think Drake May's name is big enough, for Washington. I think if you want to win, I think at this point with rebuilding the way the Commanders are, I think I know you want to sell tickets, but you also kind of want to play it safe. And May can run the ball a little bit. He's got a big arm. He's different from Hal. I think he's a better runner than Hal. I think he's bigger. He's got the stronger arm. I think he's a better passer, not by much, but I'd like to say who knows? I mean, depending on where these guys goes, I mean, they might be good, they might not. I mean, that's
yeah. I mean, look, Richardson went up boards like crazy last year. So who's going to be Richardson this year? Is it going to be J.J. McCarthy? Jaden Daniels seems like the guy to do that because you're looking at a dude who's, you said 200, I got 210 on my site, but I mean, that's not big. He's not a big dude. And I had lots of question marks about Anthony Richardson last year due to a lack of experience. Once again, Jaden Daniels, same thing. But then again, I said the same thing about Joe Burrow. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Daniels go to Washington and McCarthy or May go to New England. They both sound like New England players, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would not be surprised at all to see Jaden Daniels go to the Commanders. I mean, like you said, he's got the big arm. The accuracy, I don't think the accuracy definitely isn't there. That's going to be a long way to go. I know when they're drafted that high, you're going to probably start them from the get-go. But I mean, if you end up keeping Hal, I know they talked about trading him. But it's hard to see Daniel starting right away. I think May is safer to start right away. I think even McCarthy is safer to start right away. I think Daniels would be a better if waited at least halfway through the season, get a little bit acclimated. But it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I guess no matter where they're going, it's going to be bad to play for any of those teams. And one of my notes I had that I didn't say earlier is whoever's in New England, there's going to be a lot of new faces because they have, what did I see? Was it $100 million in free agency money to spend? Like, it's ridiculous what they're going to try to buy or who's going to want to play there with the new. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see that team next year.
All right, moving over to the wide receivers. This is where it gets interesting. It's just so deep. I feel like we say this every year. It's just like constant. There's just so many wide receivers. But I think just like the quarterback, I think there's one guy that's in tier one all by himself. And honestly, I don't even think it's close. I know a lot of people that say there's a discussion, but I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is by far the best receiver in this draft at 6'3", 209. Of course, he's got the Hall of Fame lineage with his dad, Marvin Sayer. Completely different player. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is bigger, stronger, and faster, than his dad. And that's what you look for. And when you watch him play, it's just a walking highlight reel. I mean, watching his film is like watching his highlights. He's open all the time. He can run right past people going deep. I mean, over the top, across the middle. I mean, even when you're doing a super flex, I would not be surprised if you see Marvin Harrison going over Caleb Williams in some situation. That's how good this guy is.
Could you see him going as high as number 4 to Arizona to give Kyler a person? I see 4 and 5. Arizona and Chargers. He's not going past the Chargers.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely where he goes. Get past the top 3 if they're taking quarterbacks and somebody trade up. But I think Marvin definitely is going to go number 4. I mean, if you're looking at Jamar Chase was the last quarterback to go number 4, and I picked Marvin Harrison over Jamar Chase at this point. I think Marvin Harrison is just fantastic.
Yeah, crazy. Oof.
But where the competition really starts is like this next tier. I got 4 people in this next tier. I know it's a little more than most people. Most people got Malik Neighbors and Roman Dunze, in the second tier by themselves. I think Malik Neighbors is awesome. I think Roman Dunze is awesome, but I don't think they're Marvin Harrison great. I think they don't take the top off like Marvin Harrison good. I think they're more of like the underneath. I think they're more of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of receiver where they're working underneath, under 20 yards. Don't get me wrong. They catch a ball, they can take it all the way, absolutely, without a doubt. But two guys that I want to throw in there is Malik Neighbors, his teammate, and Brian Thomas Jr., 6'2", big. Yeah. So, and he was, like you said, he was super fast at the combine. I think when you watch his film, when you watch the film on Neighbors, Brian Thomas just stands out just as much as Neighbors does. I mean,
Bigger
this guy,
too.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he
That's
can
crazy.
take the top off. He's more of the Marvin Harrison type of receiver. And then the other guy that I really fell in love with this weekend is Adnan Mitchell out of Texas, 6'2", 205. I mean, this guy just looked fantastic at the combine. And when you watch film, this guy's just like Marvin Harrison's, like his human highlight reel. He's always open. He's going deep. He's got that outside the numbers. With I think all four of these guys could be gone by like pick 13.
Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the size there of those guys, and they're the same size and a little faster than Harrison. So it comes down to who adapts best to the pro game. And some guys have been up here. I mean, we could name who was that dude for the Patriots of the year that just stunk up the world. He was supposed to be the next. Golly, I just lost his name.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, we're professionals that forget the name. Professional BSers. But he was supposed to be like the next great thing. He came out, everybody's like, yeah, he's Marvin Harrison Jr. Then we don't even remember his name. That's how terrible it went. But we can't remember other guys that came in. I'm looking here, and it's interesting that Thomas comes in. He is essentially fast Marvin Harrison. We don't know what's between the ears. That's always the difference coming in. So you're looking at some big. This year is the opposite of last year. Last year was the teeny tiny receivers. I mean, you get down to later on. I'm sure you'll talk about Franklin and then the speedster way down there, Xavier Worthy, but the little guys coming in. But last year it was the little fast guys. This year it's the big strong fast guys. This could be a different class. This could be the class they thought was coming last year. If we have four guys, if you think four guys in the top 13, I think that's a stretch considering the needs where teams will build inside out. But those are four just big body dudes. I mean. Adunze is just the house compared to these guys,
Yeah,
And,
I mean, like I said, the size of this year, I mean, it's crazy. It's just up and down the board. So I got two more guys, and then we'll call it quits. We'll move on. This is a guy that rose a little bit, and then a guy that fell pretty much for the same reason, but at opposite ends of the spectrum. So I watched a lot of Florida State. And the guy I want to go with here is Keon Coleman. So 6'3", 213 pounds, a big guy. When you watch him out there, he just looks bigger than everybody. He's great when the defense, like in close contact. I mean, he's good, when there's contact coming, he can go get the ball. The lack of separation is what's going to hurt him here. And in the combine, he ran like 4.67. So that is super slow. I think that hurt him a lot. Now I think he was a first rounder coming in. I believe he was close, but I think he's more of like falling the mid second round. And then the guy on the opposite end of the spectrum that probably worked his way up, that's Xavier Worthy out of Texas, Adnan Mitchell's teammate. Now he's a little guy, 5'11", 165, but he was a burner. He ran the fastest time in the combine at a 4.21. This guy is insane fast. But what has really happened with the fast guys like this that have come into the league lately? They really haven't been all that. So I'll probably stay away from him a little bit unless he's falling later in the draft. But the speed is enticing.
it's like a Tank Dell kind of guy there. So you just got to hope he doesn't get hit. I mean, that dude weighs less than I do. With me losing all my weight. Like, I'm bigger than a guy that could be an NFL wide receiver. But you're looking. I like the Keon Coleman. It'd be interesting to see where he would be if Florida State hadn't just rolled over. Like if hadn't had the injuries towards the end of the season. I mean, he had freshman cheerleaders throwing him the ball by the end of the year with the falling apart of that team. So how would that affect his draft stock?
And I will say this, Keon Coleman didn't have the stats this year, but as I watched Florida State play, I'm not a huge fan of Jordan Travis. I do not think he was a very accurate quarterback. I mean, some of his balls were all over. I know they were undefeated and they looked great throughout the season, but I don't think he was all that great of a quarterback putting the ball where a guy this big can get it. I mean, he's got a big catch radius. I think he can be better. Watching some of the drills on the combine, while running the drills, I mean, he was running up worth 20 miles an hour. So I think the kid has got plenty of speed. I'm not really worried about that, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him.
He sounds like he could be like that bargain receiver you get a little bit later in your drafts, and you're like, hey,
Yep.
kind of Nico Collins-ish as you go on.
Yeah, so I mean that's the first couple of guys in the top of the draft you'll run into. Next week we'll talk about a couple tight ends, bust out the running backs. A couple of running backs, shined in the combine, ran some fast speeds, but we'll go over them plenty. Did you watch any of the combine?
I have not. I've been busy with my kids and stuff, so I see it popping up. I've just been seeing articles that pop up about guys and some of their 40 times and guys that aren't doing anything for combine. I've always said, like, for me right now, I'll listen to you tell me guys, I'll look up guys, but until they have a home, you throw any of these guys on the Raiders, they're dead to me. You throw any of these guys like on the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, they're kind of dead to me. You throw one of these guys to Josh Allen, holy moly, their stock rises. So the value of these guys is totally really a lot of them are spot dependent. Like I was big on Puka because I liked him with the cup option because it didn't push him in there. So I was a big Puka fan. And last year and the year before, Amon Ra jumping into that, what I thought was going to be Dan Campbell was doing some good stuff with that team before they became, watching them grow. So for me, it's location. And it goes with talent. Like you can't be like a bump on the log going there. So, JJ Wang, for our listeners that don't want to hear about the Bourbon Bowl, give us some closing words of wisdom, and I hope they're about the stinger.
Oh, that is 100% about the stinger.
I knew it.
Absolutely 100%. So as most
Hold your arm up. Hold your arm
shoot-
up for those watching. See if you can get it up.
Huh? Oh yeah, I got the scorpion. I got the scorpion. I don't know. I can see. I got the scorpion on there. But yeah, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Sting's my favorite wrestler of all time. Pretty much the first memory I have of television is staying up on Saturday nights at 11:30, watching Ric Flair, watching the Road Warriors, watching Sting when he came in. And when Sting came in, him and the Ultimate Warrior were actually tag team partners back in the day before they split. They went their separate ways.
Blade Runners, right?
Here we are, Sting being in his 60s, still jumping off stages, jumping on through tables. And tonight's his last match. This guy's, it sounds crazy, but it's been a huge part of my life. I mean, I've watched this guy from the get-go. My favorite wrestler of all time. I love the guy. It's gonna be sad to see him go, but I mean, he's an old man. It's about that time. So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.
Oh, the stinger. Okay, if you're sticking around here for the bonus part, that means you're either in the Bourbon Bowl and you want to see how bad you can bust our chops for busting your chops, or you're curious, what kind of leagues are JJ Wang and DJ Dove in? So we're going to spend about the next 10 to 15 minutes talking about our league called the Bourbon Bowl. The Bourbon Bowl is a 12-team dynasty auction league, tight end premium super flex. You can start 11 players. At most, you can start 2 quarterbacks. So it's a quarterback. But after that, you can start whatever you want. But you must start 1 running back, 1 receiver, 1 tight end. After that, whatever you want. You must start 1 of each position, but only 1 super flex. So 11 starting positions. It makes for fun. Like in that league, I think one year I had like 1 running back, and I just played receivers and tight ends. I built up tight ends. So we have 12 teams here, and different varying ranges, different approaches. Some guys believe in tanking their entire team to get auction money because we will do like a straight up proxy auction, which you talked about, where like guys will be up and the auction goes for 8 hours. JJ Wang gets totally jobbed over in that kind of an auction, and then but it makes it for fun throughout the year. It's a pretty competitive league. Most of the guys are fairly really into it, and this year once again we got one guy with a ton of money. So JJ Wang, where do you want to start here? Should we start with the highest power ranked team and work our way down?
I mean, it's however you want to go. We can go 1 through 12 if you want. Is that how you want to take it?
Are we doing it like based upon last year, or how do you want to look at it?
I mean, I've worked up some stats here in front of me.
Go through it and I'll follow your lead. I mean, I know the power ranked team is the team that should have won, but they didn't.
All right. So with number 1 power ranked team, of course, is the champion from last year. You got Skywalkers. This guy came into the league and somehow he managed to talk everybody into giving him his money, giving them his all their good players, and this is what we've come to. I mean, we've got a powerhouse now, and I would just like to thank everybody in the league for allowing this to happen. It's really appreciated. How do you feel,
Scott?
Well,
say it out loud.
I mean, not only Scott. I mean, Scott didn't give this guy all of his draft money. I mean, people were trading all the draft money.
Justin Jefferson.
But kudos to Brad. I mean, he was able to get Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson along with all of his other players. I mean, great wide receivers, good running backs. I think the only spot His quarterback hurts a little. What do you think?
He's got Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts is like a QB 1-1-1 that he's followed up by Stafford. He just doesn't have a third quarterback. And I mean,
Yeah.
really, his running backs are Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White. So we'll see what happens there with Walker. Receivers, I mean, you got the two best in the game. Drake London, who's going to bounce back, I'm pretty sure about. And then he's got Trey McBride, the next coming tight end, and Njoku. So there's holes in depth, but as far as a solid starting squad, I mean, that team was a heaping pile of poo when he inherited it. He said, "I'm rebuilding," and that's the thing you gotta learn about if you know anything about dynasty. Everybody just build, make it yours. Like he just cleaned house, made it his, and he just owned the draft the other year and just took everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't think it would turn out the way it did, but I mean, it worked out. And like I said, thank you everybody in the league for giving this guy all the draft money and turning into the team that he has right now. So going to the second team here, we've got stop looking at my tight ends. I'll let you go with this one first. I'll let you have this one.
They have the best owner in the league. He's quite handsome. Even has his own podcast. What I built my team. This is my team. I built it around tight ends. Like really, it's what's called stop looking at my tight ends. I traded over the years. I have Kelsey, I have Waller, I have Mark Andrews, and I have I have Chig, and then I built up from there. Through trades, I was able to get Devontae Adams. I drafted Nico Collins for a bag of donuts. Traded for Mike Evans this year. Puka's been my steal on like every team I have, but I always believe you got to have three quarterbacks, and I didn't have that for a while. This year, I lucked into Will Levis, which wasn't a great thing, but it gave me that third quarterback to go with Lamar and Tua, and then the hopeful running backs of A-Chain and Derrick Henry. Like this is a team that last year I had for the team. This was a bad luck team. Points for 3,042, points against 3,702. It wasn't even close to I just got obliterated.
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes. I mean, I really don't feel all that bad for you. I mean, you win some, you lose some, but I would say with your team, as far as like the running backs and wide receivers, you should probably want to go ahead and start winning now that you are getting a little older in the tooth. But I mean, I think you still got
21-71, but
I think you still got a solid core that you could go with as long as you can maybe get in the draft and get a little younger. Going to team number 3, we got Bijan Mustardson. Very, very good team. You know, his quarterbacks are struggling. He does got CJ Stroud. Kenny Pickett is his backup. Good luck there. He might want to find something else there. But running backs, I mean, this is where he builds his base. He's got Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Conner Williams, just absolutely monster running back room. And then with his receivers, he's got Amon-Ra and Rashee Rice. I mean, a very good base team here, just maybe adding a little more depth in the wide receiver room. And I think he's got a real competitive team here.
Yeah, so this team is not strong. The thing is, he is the team this year that has all the money. He's got $1,200, $1,300 in the draft. So he's gonna win the draft this year. He's walking away with a quarterback. He's gonna walk away with Marvin Harrison to build in there, and some ancillary pieces that will pick this team back up to have someone to go with CJ Stroud, because Pickett's done, Locke's done, Flacco's done. So he's got no quarterbacks. He needs a second quarterback. That's his problem. And he's going to get that plus in the draft this year. He's going to do if he's smart, he's going to do what Skywalker's did a few years ago and stock up and just snake everybody on players, which is why I might not buy into this draft because I have zero.
Now, Grant, he won't be able to do what Skywalker's did. He's got half of the money, so it might be a little harder for him to do it totally that way. But yeah, he's set up very, very fine to get like the top. And if not, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, he could get both of them. It's very possible.
Unless he wants Williams. He's got to get a quarterback. Really looking
at
draft.
Yeah, he's got
one, maybe two quarterbacks. He's got to get 2. I'd say 2.
Yeah, he definitely got to get quarterbacks. Going to team number 4, we got the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Of course, got Anthony Richardson and Kyler Murray, so a fantastic quarterback room. Jared Goff as his third guy. Very, very solid there. One of the top young quarterback rooms in the league. Christian McCaffrey, a little older. His running backs are struggling. McCaffrey's the only really guy that he's got. He does have Javonte Williams. You know, he's got our boy James Conner. And then at receivers, 2 young guys, Waddle and Jackson Smith and Jigba. He does got Deontay Johnson, But I think he really needs to fix this running back room if he wants to have more of a chance.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, unless Javante pulls something out of his butt. But on this league, though, you need one running back. He's got CMC. So if he has CMC and Connor, and he builds up his in this league, you're better off building up a receiver room because they last for 10 years and then go from then out. I mean, his tight ends, he has Goddard and he's got Dalton Schultz basically. So he might be fine going through. He's just got to hope he hits the good luck. Or if I was him, I'd draft receivers. I wouldn't even worry about the running backs because you need one, and he's got one for this year, and he can pick up a bag of potatoes to play running back. So that's where I would go with him. And I think Jared Goff's getting extended. So he's got Jared Goff and Kyler for the next 5 years. So I think he's good there. And I would go receiver with these big body guys. Put a couple guys in there.
Yeah, with the way the draft is working out, you can go receiver and get a couple late steals at the end of the draft. Pretty cheap, I think, this year. All right, so number 5 in the power rankings is CD's Nuts. I know it's the family program, but I think we can let that one slide a little bit. And now we're starting to get to the middle of the league here. Whether you want to win, the championship, or do you want to win the draft? At quarterback, he's got Joe Burrow. After that, kind of struggles. Geno Smith, Sam Howell. That's a tough way to go. Running back, kind of older here. We got Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, and Aaron Jones. So we're old there. Receivers do look good. You got CeeDee Lamb, of course, my favorite player. DJ Moore looked good last year. And then we got Stephon Diggs, who I'm kind of questioning at the moment. Not really sure where if he stays with Buffalo, or how his career goes from this point over. But I think this guy needs to up his quarterback room, definitely, and fix his running back room, or at least get a little younger.
And he needs a tight end to see. Well, barring Kittle's going to be good, but Pitts. He doesn't score any points. So we'll see what happens within that thing. But he does. So he's got Burrow as his quarterback, and that's pretty much it. And it'll be interesting to see. It's a new owner, so we don't know his tendencies. So I guess we'll find out as we get a little farther in with this one. But I think, growing those rooms, I think with the running backs, he has the entire Saints backfield, and he's got old guys. So Najee, I think, should have a bounce back year because it looks like they're going to focus on the run. But otherwise, we'll see.
All right, going to the team number 6, and the last one we'll go through the day. We'll go to we'll finish up next week with teams 7 through 12, and this is of course my team, JJ Wang's Dynasty Diamonds. My team should be better. I haven't been greatest at the draft. I have got hosed a couple times. I should have a couple better players. But I think my quarterback room is decent. I got Brock Purdy and Justin Fields. Not much after that. Running backs, I got a whole bunch of what ifs. I got Tajay Spears, James Cook, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Zamir White. I think those 5 guys I can switch in and out. I think are pretty solid. And the wide receivers, Devonta Smith and Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, I think that's a solid core. Definitely needs to be added to. And I have 0 tight ends. I definitely need to work on that. But I think if I could get a high-end wide receiver in this draft, maybe go after Brock Bowers. Maybe we'll see what happens there. I think I'm real close here. I mean, I'm real close to making the jump to the next tier in this league.
I think you're a tight end away. I think your running backs, you're underselling. I mean, you look at Cooks, you go with Cooks, Montgomery, Tajay, and Zamir. They're all starters this year. And they're all going to be, we'll say RB2s for the sake of time now, but they could be easily RB1s on any given week with what they all have the potential. Then Ayuk, depending upon where he signs, Pittman and Smith there, you get a decent tight end. I mean, the problem is rookie tight ends, they hit, but I mean, that's where your challenge is going to be. So it might be a trade for a tight end. It might be, something moving for a tight end. I might have a couple.
You got to come. I mean, I've been looking. I think a trade is definitely a possibility. I think I want to get through this draft, and then I'll start working from there. Maybe working with, next year's draft picks, maybe 2026 draft picks. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm happy with my team. Could make a couple better choices, but hey, that's the way fantasy is.
Yeah. So, that was the first half of the Bourbon Bowl. Enjoy it, Bourbon Bowl guys. You can bust our chops on the Bourbon Bowl chat. Everybody else, that's our Bourbon Bowl league. We'll tell the second half of it next week. And as always,
trust yourself and trust the process.